A family is out in the middle of the Caribbean on their yacht, enjoying a vacation. Julia decides to jump into the water for a swim. Everything feels normal at first, but after a while, she gets this weird feeling like something's nearby. She looks around and doesn't see anything, so she brushes it off. A few seconds later, it happens again. This time, she's definitely freaked out, so she turns around and starts swimming back toward the yacht. And then out of nowhere, something grabs her leg and starts pulling her underwater. Julia screams for help, but her daughter Cassie has her headphones on and can't hear a thing. Tom and their son Ben are busy fishing, completely unaware of what's happening. Julia fights to stay above the surface, but she keeps swallowing water, making it almost impossible to yell. After a while, Tom realizes he hasn't seen Julia in a long time. He looks around the yacht, spots her struggling in the water, and instantly knows something's wrong. He calls the kids over, steers the yacht closer, and jumps straight into the ocean. He reaches Julia just in time, grabs her, and swims back while the kids pull both of them on board. The whole family rushes to check on Julia, but she convinces herself it was probably just the waves messing with her. That night, they all celebrate Ben's birthday together. During the party, Cassie gets a video call from her boyfriend, so she grabs her laptop and steps outside. He shows her huge black storm clouds covering the city, but before he can explain anything else, the call freezes and cuts out. Cassie tells everyone what she saw, but Tom figures the signal's probably weak because they're so far from land. Right then, they hear a strange sound coming from outside. They walk onto the deck and see a whole pod of whales passing by. Tom explains that whales normally follow Earth's magnetic field, but powerful storms can throw them completely off course. Before anyone can say another word, the yacht suddenly shakes hard, knocking Ben to the floor. Worried the hull might be damaged, Tom grabs his diving gear and heads underwater to check. A little later, he comes back up with a deep cut across his shoulder. Julia stitches the wound right away, while Tom explains what happened. He says it felt like something massive was swimming behind him, but when he turned around, he got sliced by the propeller instead. Whatever was down there, it was huge. Tom also finds serious damage on the yacht, so they try calling for help. Julia keeps working the radio while Cassie searches for a phone signal, but nothing works. Then Cassie suddenly spots a strange-looking creature and screams. A second later, they realize it's just Ben wearing a mask and pulling a prank. Not long after that, the yacht completely loses power and ends up drifting helplessly in the middle of the ocean. Julia finally hears a voice over the radio, but the signal is so broken she can't make out a single word. Tom checks their supplies and tells everyone they only have enough food and water to last 4 days. With no way to move, seconds later, the yacht starts rocking so hard that Ben gets thrown down again, and this time he gets hurt. Huge waves slam into the yacht one after another, while Tom struggles outside to grab the life jackets. Right then, the power suddenly cuts out. Tom rushes over, resets the electrical panel, and the lights flick back on. As everything settles for a second, Ben notices blood dripping from Julia's nose. She starts feeling dizzy, while Cassie runs over to the sink and throws up. Tom keeps trying the radio, but there's still no signal. Then a piercing, high-pitched noise blasts through the air, and the storm gets even worse. Julia fights to shut all the doors, but one hatch suddenly flies open. Powerful wind starts smashing through the windows. Tom lights a flare, and before long, everything goes completely dark. The next morning, the family wakes up shocked that they actually survived the storm, but the yacht is badly damaged. When they step outside, they freeze in disbelief. The ocean is gone. The water has completely disappeared, leaving the yacht stranded on dry ground. Nobody can believe what they're seeing. Cassie checks her phone again, but the entire network is dead. Ben starts playing with a couple of dead crabs lying nearby. Tom looks at the compass and realizes it's pointing the wrong way. He explains that something like this only happened around 700,000 years ago. Cassie starts breaking down, convinced her boyfriend probably didn't survive. Julia tries to comfort her, but Cassie pushes her away and walks off by herself. Meanwhile, Julia and Tom count their remaining supplies. Ben ties his birthday balloons to a large rock, hoping maybe another survivor will spot them from far away. Tom gives the radio one more try, and this time someone finally answers. The man's name is Noah, and he's the captain of a submarine that's also stranded on land. He explains that Earth's magnetic poles have reversed. That's why the ocean pulled back and entire coastlines have changed. Noah says he hasn't seen any other survivors, and almost every communication system has failed. He believes the poles will flip back again, and if that happens, the ocean could return within a week. Before ending the call, he gives them one warning. They need to reach higher ground as fast as possible because when the water comes back, it'll be unbelievably powerful. He also explains that his partner died during the crash, and the submarine only has room for 3 people now. Julia and Tom beg him to save their children, if nothing else. Noah agrees and gives them his exact coordinates. Tom figures it'll take them about 2 or 3 days to reach the submarine on foot. Looking at his family, he tells everyone to get a good night's sleep because first thing tomorrow morning, they're leaving. The next morning, the family packs everything they can carry and gets ready to leave. Just before they head out, Tom notices something moving nearby. A limping man slowly walks toward them with a harpoon in one hand while his dog keeps barking nonstop. Tom carefully approaches him and offers him a bottle of water. The stranger says something in a language Tom doesn't understand. He drinks the water, and then without any warning, he smashes the bottle into Tom's head and follows it up with a hard kick to the face. Julia panics and starts running toward them, but she's already too late. The man drives the harpoon straight into Tom's stomach. Tom collapses to the ground. Julia turns turns and runs, but the man chases after her and throws the harpoon. It slams into her shoulder, leaving her badly injured. Fighting through the pain, Julia makes it back inside the yacht and tells the kids to hide immediately. She locks the door behind her. Cassie and Ben squeeze inside the couch for cover, while Julia hands them a flare gun. Then she grabs a knife and hides inside the bathroom. The stranger starts slamming against the door over and over until he finally breaks inside. The first thing he does is grab some food. Then he starts searching every corner of the yacht. Eventually, he heads toward the bathroom, but Julia slips out through a small opening before he gets there. The man assumes she already escaped and starts walking away. Just as Julia quietly crawls out, the man's dog spots her and starts barking. It jumps at her, forcing Julia to stab it with her knife. The dog's scream brings the stranger running outside. The second he sees his dead dog, he completely loses it. While he's distracted, Julia circles around the yacht and climbs up the side, trying to get back inside through a broken window. She almost makes it, but the attacker gets there first. He grabs her and lands a brutal punch that knocks her back down. Julia tries using the furniture to protect herself, but he kicks her across the room. Then he stomps on her wrist until she drops the knife. He grabs her by the hair, smashes her face into the floor, throws her onto the couch, and starts choking her. Cassie and Ben watch the whole thing from their hiding spot. They know if they don't act now, their mom is dead. Cassie suddenly jumps out and fires the flare gun. The flare hits the attacker directly, setting him on fire almost instantly. Flames begin spreading through the yacht, giving the kids just enough time to escape. Julia manages to get back on her feet, kicks the burning attacker away, grabs the map and their bags, and runs outside. Ben and Cassie rush over to Tom's body and break down crying. Julia joins them, and the three of them sit beside him, saying one final goodbye. But before they can leave, the attacker staggers out of the burning yacht. He's still alive. The family immediately starts running again, and only moments later, the entire yacht explodes in one massive blast behind them. After walking for a while, they stop beside a small spring to catch their breath. As they keep moving, Ben suddenly spots a dead hammerhead shark lying beside a small pool. Before they can stop to look at it, Julia notices the attacker catching up again. The three of them take off running and end up sliding down a huge sand dune. At the bottom, they find piles of toxic waste scattered everywhere. They carefully make their way across it, and for the moment, it looks like they've finally lost him. The farther they walk, the stranger everything gets. Giant sea animals are lying dead everywhere, and the entire seabed is covered in plastic that used to be hidden underwater. Ben starts slowing down, and Julia realizes he's getting badly dehydrated. She tells everyone to stop so they can drink some water, but the second she checks the bottle, her heart sinks. Almost all the water is gone. Cassie realizes she probably didn't close the cap properly. Julia loses her temper and yells that one mistake may have cost them their only chance to survive. Cassie fires back, saying it doesn't even matter because they're all going to die anyway. A little later, they come across a crashed airplane. Something moves inside, making all three of them freeze. They slowly look inside, only to find a flock of birds flying around. Since it's getting late, they decide to spend the night inside the wreckage. They split the last of their snacks, and while sitting there, Julia finds an old family photo inside Tom's jacket. Seeing it completely breaks her. Later that night, Cassie quietly steps outside the plane. Before she even realizes what's happening, the attacker suddenly grabs her from behind, but Julia comes charging in without hesitation. She tackles him to the ground and repeatedly stabs him with the knife until he finally stops moving. Cassie hugs her mom tightly, trying to calm her down after everything that just happened. The next morning, they find the attacker's body covered with insects. Looking closer, they notice his body is full of bite marks. That means something even more dangerous is living out here. As the family walks away, dozens of crabs suddenly crawl out of the dead man's mouth. The heat keeps getting worse, so all three of them wrap clothes around their heads to protect themselves from the sun. Ben starts feeling dizzy again. Not long after that, they find a few old chairs lying around. Julia and Cassie use them to build a small shelter. Julia gives Ben an injection to help him recover, and they decide to spend the night there before continuing the journey. The next morning, Julia wakes up after hearing a strange noise. She steps outside and instantly sees a massive swarm of giant crabs charging straight toward them. She wakes the kids without wasting a second, and the three of them start running for their lives. After a long sprint, they finally spot a huge cargo ship sitting on the dried-up seabed. Three crew members inside are still alive. One woman wants to help the family, but the other two refuse. Instead of opening the door, they lock themselves inside the container and leave Julia and the kids outside. The crabs keep getting closer. Julia helps Cassie and Ben climb onto the top of the container. As she starts climbing herself, several crabs latch onto her leg and bite down hard. The kids grab her arms and pull her up just in time. Some of the crabs squeeze through a hole in the container and get inside. The crew members immediately start shooting, but there are simply too many of them. The swarm overwhelms both men and tears them apart. The last survivor tries climbing toward an opening in the roof, but the crabs drag him back down before he can escape. Julia wraps a bandage around her injured leg, but the pain is too much and she passes out. When she finally wakes up, a powerful sandstorm is blowing across the entire area. She finds herself alone and immediately starts searching for the kids. She picks up a weapon from a dead woman and keeps yelling their names. A little later, Cassie hears her her voice and runs back. She explains that she and Ben went looking for help, but there wasn't anyone left alive. Soon they find Ben, who discovers an open shipping container. Knowing her wound could get infected, Julia pulls out Tom's lighter and burns the injury shut. The pain is unbearable, but she forces herself through it. Once the storm finally dies down, they search another container and hit the jackpot. It's filled with bottled water. While checking the bodies nearby, they also find a working radio and a gun. After another long hike, Ben stops beside an old broken toilet to pee. When they look up again, they finally see the submarine sitting not too far away. But before they can reach it, they have to cross a steep rocky pass, standing between them and their only chance to survive. The family starts making their way across the rocky path, but before they get very far, the ground suddenly begins shaking. Huge rocks start breaking loose, and within seconds, the entire cliff turns into a massive rock slide. Julia immediately shoves both kids out of the way and jumps back herself just before the falling boulders crush them. When the dust finally settles, a giant wall of rock now separates Julia from her children. She yells at Cassie and Ben to keep moving without her. Cassie refuses and begs her mom to keep trying to climb over. Cassie grabs Ben's hand and pulls him toward the submarine. After climbing over the rocks, the kids finally reach Noah, but when they get there, they find him lying outside the submarine, covered in blood. He tells them he's not going to make it. Since his partner is already dead, the submarine now has enough room for the two of them. Thinking there might still be space for one more person, Cassie immediately turns around and runs back to find her mom. She finally makes it over the rocks, and the two of them sprint toward the submarine together. Ben is already waiting at the top, holding the hatch open. He keeps firing at the crabs to slow them down while Julia and Cassie climb aboard. As soon as the swarm reaches Noah's body, the creatures instantly begin tearing it apart. Julia grabs the gun and keeps shooting until both kids are safely inside. Then she pulls the trigger again, climbs into the submarine, and slams the hatch shut behind her. The family locks the hatch tight and looks out the window as thousands of crabs surround the submarine from every direction. And then, right on cue, the ocean finally comes rushing back. The three of them quickly strap themselves into their seats and hold onto each other's hands. Massive waves toss the submarine around like a toy. The violent ride triggers flashes of everything Julia has been through, while Cassie gets so seasick that she throws up. A few moments later, that same high-pitched sound returns. The noise gets louder and louder until all three of them pass out. Sometime later, Julia opens her eyes. Cassie and Ben wake up too, and they're relieved to realize they're still alive. Julia unlocks the hatch, and they carefully step outside. They're shocked by what they find. The waves have carried the submarine into the middle of a ruined city. Even though the world around them has been destroyed, they finally have something they haven't had in a long time, a chance to survive. And that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss the next movie explanation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.